Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Business Theory. I'm your host, Andrew Flowers, and today I'm with Nate O'Brien, serial entrepreneur and YouTuber. How's it going,
Yeah.
Nate?
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me on here. I really do appreciate it.
Of course. For my listeners, just tell a little bit about who you are.
My name's Nate O'Brien. I'm 20, and I primarily create YouTube videos helping people with personal finance. That's really what I've been getting into a lot lately, and I have about 150 some thousand subscribers on that YouTube channel. I have a couple other channels as well and some other business ventures. But right now, that's really my primary interest. And so I do my best to help people kind of create a better financial future for themselves. And as you know, and probably most of the listeners here know, the schools don't really touch on personal finance very much. And, I'm not selling courses. I'm not trying to push products onto people or anything. It's all just free information that I give out that I really just try my best to help as many people as possible to create that better financial future for themselves. And I started it really about a year and a half ago after realizing how many people are kind of struggling with finances. And I just think it's a root of a lot of people's issues in their lives with financial stress. Some of my friends, some of my family members have some financial stress. And so I wanted to be able to help people. And the best way to do that, I thought, was through the internet because it's scalable and you can help, not just one person at a time, but help millions of people.
So, with your YouTube channel, what has
Mhm.
that really done for you and what kind of doors has that opened?
I think it definitely opens some doors for networking opportunities and kind of surrounding yourself with people who maybe weren't available to me as easily before. So, for example, with my business ventures, it's kind of hard to find a lot of people who maybe think similarly, who want to start some type of entrepreneurial endeavor. And so, by kind of doing this and going this route, I was able to kind of meet people who, yeah, I definitely would not have otherwise met. So, Ryan Scribner, good friend of mine, Marco from Whiteboard Finance, have a nice group going there. And it's great to brainstorm and kind of throw ideas off of each other and definitely network. Yeah.
Okay. So, what are the first few things that you've done in terms of personal finance through your YouTube channel? What are the best videos that really took off that you realized, hey, this could actually work?
Yeah, so one of them, I think one of my top videos is helping people with different side hustles or kind of generating some extra cash in their lives. A lot of people want some extra money. And so that was one of my top videos. And it has over 1 million views. I'm not sure how many exactly. But that was a great one to kind of get started. But really, my goal is to kind of just help people to understand that, look, it doesn't really matter how much money you're making. If you're making $20,000 a year or $2 million per year, really what it matters is how you're managing that money that's coming in the door. Because I have friends who are making over $1 million a year, but they're still piss broke because they don't know how to manage their finances. They're buying Escalades, they're getting very expensive houses that they can't afford, and they're spending all their money. And then I also have friends who are making $30,000 or $40,000 a year who are saving a good portion of their income and will probably be millionaires within the next decade or so.
Okay, so you're really
Yeah.
focusing on not necessarily cash inflow, but cash management.
Yeah, so a little bit of both. Obviously, there's two factors to the equation, and one of them is increasing your income, but not everybody's always interested in doing that. Not everybody has the entrepreneurial mindset, and some people just aren't really into, they don't want to create their own business. They're happy with their job, they're happy with what they're doing, but they still want to create a better financial future for themselves. And so, yeah, so there's definitely two factors into that equation, but I think before focusing on the money on trying to bring in more money to have more cash flow coming in, you should first master the ability to manage those finances, or else it's not really going to make a difference. It's not going to be much of a difference if you don't know how to manage that. So that's really something that I think is an underlying issue for a lot of people, is just understanding basic budgeting, basic of how to manage your assets and your finances.
Okay, so let's get into a little bit of background on you. Were you raised with, an entrepreneur mindset? Were your parents entrepreneurs, or did you, from a young age, just realize, hey, I want to own my own business or create my own way?
Yeah, so I think I've probably explained this maybe once or twice on my channel, but I don't talk about it too often. And so there's really two people in my life who I kind of saw them go different routes, and it was my father and my grandfather. And so my father worked for a chemical company. for about 30 some years. And I'll be honest, never really enjoyed his job very much. There were times where he really did like it, and other times where it wasn't an optimal job for him. And so, watching that happen with my dad, and not very passionate about his job, and then seeing my grandfather who quit his job back in 1962 to start his own landscaping business. He used to work at General Electric, had a nice job, quit his job so he could become a landscaper. He had young kids. People said, "What are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. Why would you quit your job to become a landscaper out of all things where you're probably not going to make as much money as you were at your previous job?" But he did it because he wanted to have that freedom and have that ability to kind of control his own life and decide what he wants to do with the hours in his day. Because I know a lot of people who really don't have control over that, and he wanted that control. And so I kind of grew up watching both of those different people, both of the, I would say, the greatest influences in my life, my father and my grandfather, and just seeing the different route that they went. And I decided from a very young age that I wanted to be like my grandfather, where I was able to have that control over my day and decide, what, if it's a Wednesday and I want to go fishing, then I can go do it. And, maybe that means I have to work on a Sunday, but it means that, you're able to have that control over your day. And so from a pretty young age, that's what I decided. I wanted to start my own business. And I think my first business venture really was probably stealing toys from my sister and then selling them back to her when I was younger. That was really my first business venture, not very ethical. So I had to stop that one after a while. But but no, then I moved into, I created a chicken egg business. So I had over 100 chickens. I was selling eggs to all the neighbors, all the people that my parents worked with. And then eventually morphed into some other business ventures as well, lawn care business. That one was actually quite profitable. I think a lot of people, the issue is they're going for like these big, like they're trying to start the next Facebook or the next Google or something. And they kind of overlook some of these other business opportunities that could bring in a couple $100,000 a year. And I quite truly mean that when I say that. I have friends who are in my local area from where my parents live, who graduated high school and are making six figures on some of these businesses, like a plumbing business, lawn care business, a window washing business, and they're pulling in $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year by doing this, because they're bringing on a lot of employees and they're making a decent amount of money. And I think people overlook some of those different business ventures just because they look at it and they say, well, it's the lawn guy, or it's the plumber. How much can they really be making? But I think it's important to kind of open up your eyes a little bit more, take a step back and actually run the numbers, and you can see that there's a lot of money in some of these manual labor businesses.
And it's something that not a lot of entrepreneurs think of, especially today in the space of digital marketing and
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
e-commerce and all of these laptop lifestyle
exactly.
entrepreneurship avenues. What is your advice for that young entrepreneur, especially in today's age? Because it's not so much put into the limelight. For example, traditional entrepreneurship businesses or side hustles. What's kind of your suggestion on where you want entrepreneurs, or where you would suggest entrepreneurs go? More that traditional route with landscaping, plumbing, window washing, garage sale kind of hustling businesses,
Yeah.
or start and go and learn social media marketing or e-commerce or
Yeah. So I know exactly what you're saying. And, so that's a really interesting question, because I think I'm kind of not too satisfied with kind of what's going on now, where it's really if you want to get into the space, then you buy like $1,000 course from somebody for Shopify drop shipping, and they teach you how to do it, and it's kind of like, so from my personal opinion, I've never paid for online courses more than like $10 from Udemy, right? But I also know people who are spending like $2,000 on some of these digital online courses, and they're blowing like 10 grand for multiple courses to learn stuff that really I think is free information. I mean, there's so much free information out there. And a lot of these courses are just kind of glorified versions of a book that you could pick up at your free local library, right? And so I think if you want to start something like that, then really bootstrapping is a great way. And really just figuring it out on your own, I think can actually bring more value to yourself than kind of trying to get the easy way to succeed in business. And I think that's a problem that people have, where they want kind of just like an easy blueprint, like they'll have somebody set up like a Shopify store for them or something, And I don't want to bash on, certain industries or something. Like, I don't want to talk negatively on anything, because I know a lot of people who are making 6 figures, 7 figures on Shopify, drop shipping different products, and they're doing very well. So it's definitely an area where people can succeed very, very well. But I think a lot of people go for like these easy routes where they'll have like somebody plan this out for them, and they want like a step-by-step process on how to create a successful business. And I just don't know if that's really the case. I think if you're looking for an easy route, like an easy way, then I just don't know how well that'll actually work in the long term for people.
So getting into your landscaping business, your lawn
Mhm.
care, I know, and this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs do look at because it's, traditional, and it's
I
what,
love it. Yeah.
well, yeah, what a lot of people say is kind of their first step into entrepreneurship. I know a lot of my entrepreneur mentors, they all started in landscaping, lawn care. Let's dive into that a little bit deeper. What does it look like to set up one of these landscaping businesses? What kind of work goes into it? What's the structure?
Yeah, so I absolutely love lawn care businesses. I think it's the best business to start for somebody who is younger, who's looking to make some cash, and cash fast. Now, right now we're in May right now, so it's kind of like just starting the season here for lawn care. So if somebody's listening to this right now, this is still a great time to jump in on this. It's not too late. But I absolutely love this. So I started mine when I was 14 because my brother just turned 16. He just got his driver's license. And so he had a truck, and that's how we started our business. It's a cash business. So you're getting cash coming in, you can see it in your hands. That's what I love about it. And it definitely is some work, but generally speaking, so the way that I was doing this is I would post Craigslist ads. So now I think you have to pay like $5 to post services on Craigslist. But back when I started, I was 14, so it was like 2012, I believe, probably around then. And so I would post Craigslist ads for lawn care, post them multiple times per day on multiple devices. So I was getting as many ads out there as possible. But then I was also putting out flyers at people's houses. Be careful not to touch the mailbox. That you can't touch mailboxes. That's important to remember. So if you're ever going to distribute flyers, don't put them on mailboxes. And then I was offering pretty low entry rates because, if you're trying to start a lawn care business, it might be hard to get some of those initial customers. So I was starting at a very low entry, and then eventually you can raise your prices as you bring on more clients and as you kind of fill your time. Then you can start to either raise prices on those lower cost clients, or you can either drop those clients. So for example, I was going around and I had a push mower that I got for like $200 brand new at Lowe's, and then a weed whacker, a trimmer, whatever you want to call it, for like $100. So the total setup was like a couple $100, right? And I made that money back in less than a week. So you don't have to have like the big zero turn lawnmowers. You don't have to have the big fancy equipment and the trailers and everything. You could literally do this out of a minivan. I know somebody in my local area who has a minivan who mows lawns, and he goes around with a push mower and mows like these kind of postage stamp lawns for like $35 a piece. And he's able to bang out like 10 a day. And if you do the math on that, he's making like $350 a day. Subtract maybe $50 for gas and wear and tear on different types of equipment, and he's making a decent amount of money from doing this solo by himself, with very little overhead, with very little cost whatsoever. And I think it's a great way to get started. So over time, you can expand this, and once you get some of those lawn care customers, you're probably going to have them for a long time. Like, I still have people who want me to mow their lawn after I've been doing this for like 5 or 6 years now. And I kind of gave up those lawn care customers now that I'm moving into different business ventures. But yeah, so that's a great way to get started.
You're saying this is 100% scalable, correct?
So that's what's interesting about it. So a lot of these manual labor businesses, they're scalable to a certain point. So if you've noticed, you can see lawn care businesses, you can see like plumbing businesses and different types of manual labor businesses you can scale them to a certain point, and then it gets a little bit difficult to say go nationwide. Now you could consider franchising it. I think there's some lawn care companies like the Lawn Doctor, or maybe something like Green Thumb Lawn Care, something. There's something, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a few that did go national and they do have franchises. But I think it's definitely something that's scalable to the point where you can be pulling in $500,000 a year. possibly $1 million a year. And then it gets a little bit difficult because there's always going to be fierce competition from your weekend warriors, from your people who, are going to mow their neighbor's lawn for cheaper than you. And so, yeah. So once you start bringing on employees, then it gets a little bit more difficult to really scale that large scale to be pulling in a lot of money. But honestly, I think a lot of people would be happy with making, 100, 200, $300,000 a year off of this. And you really can do that. I know people in my area who are doing that, and they're making so much money. Now, there's also some other different types of businesses like firewood business, tree service, those things I've ventured into as well. But, not everybody lives in an area where that's easily accessible. If you live in a city, you can't be doing a tree service, and you might need a truck to do that. So
What are some business ventures that you're getting into now? Now that you've kind of established yourself, you have a lot of seed capital to be able to
mhm.
put into some new business ventures.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that I'm probably going to venture into, but I will say that I do really enjoy making these YouTube videos that I put out on my channel. But really, I kind of view money as like a byproduct to anything that I'm doing. So I don't follow money too much, and I think that's a problem for some people where they'll go for money in the short run. And they'll kind of just try to grab money right now, and they'll cash out, and they'll sell out, and they'll do whatever just to make some money and get too many sponsors, too many ads, too many products, and they kind of lose their ability to kind of influence people. And so what I do is I don't focus on money. I really don't. So any money that I'm making now is like literally just money that's coming in that I'm not like, it's nice to have, it's paying the bills, but it's not something that I really focus on. So right now, yeah, I'm going to continue to grow my channel. It's about 150,000 subscribers now. So hopefully maybe bring it up to like 500,000 or something. And then I'm building a couple other channels, some smaller scale channels. One of them helping other people create channels. So just free videos on that as well to help people kind of create those YouTube channels. Because I know when I started, I really started on YouTube back in 2012, 2013. I put out a couple videos, never really took off. And then what happened is I would watch some of these people who would start around the same time as me that have like 50 subscribers. And then 3 years later, I'm on YouTube. I see one of their videos pop up and they have like 1 million subscribers. And after watching enough people doing that, where you watch them start with 1,000 subscribers, and then you check back on them and they're succeeding so much and they're doing so well. After seeing enough people doing that, I said, you know what, it's time I have to start this channel, and I start to try to provide as much value as possible. But also, I think the information business, the education business, is very interesting, but ones that don't cost anything to the viewer, to the customer. So things like possibly books. So maybe possibly writing a book in the future, very low cost, $10 per book. Probably wouldn't be very much money coming in terms of revenue. Probably wouldn't even break even actually after the cost of actually creating the book. But that's probably another route that I would explore as well.
Yeah, that's great. I know on your YouTube channel you talk a lot about investing and
Mhm.
helping people create passive and residual income. So, what are I guess, some of the top things you've learned about investing during your experience?
Yeah. So, okay. So one of the biggest things that I've learned is that, so I actually started investing when I was 11 years old, and some people don't believe that. They say, BS, no way. But you can go back and ask anybody from my school. I was that weird kid in like sixth grade who was like looking at stocks on my computer, and I was just that weird kid. I don't know what was wrong, but I was very interested in it from a very young age. And I'm glad that I started young, because the first really couple of years of kind of getting into investing, there's so much that goes into it, and it's so complex that there's a lot that can go wrong. So I'm glad that I started when I was young, because it's difficult to really find a lot of success in the first couple of years. And the problem is that a lot of people go into it and they'll say have maybe $50,000. They throw it into the stock market. They're so confident because they have this system or this way, or they read this book about it and they know what they're doing. And then they lose their shirt because there's so much going into it that even the smartest people in the world can't really predict the stock market or the economy very easily, because there's just so many factors that go into it, right? So starting early, I was able to kind of realize, like, look, it's important to start with a small amount of money and then build up over time. So if you're going to consider starting investing now, and you want to start maybe picking individual stocks, and you're not going with something like mutual funds or ETFs that kind of track the overall market, but if you want to go with something a little bit riskier, maybe you're looking at penny stocks or day trading or something, I would consider starting with a smaller amount of money. Maybe do something called paper trading, where you're not actually investing real money. You're just kind of doing it from the sidelines, but pretending that you are, just so you can get your feet wet and kind of understand how it works. And I think that's the best way to learn, is actually just learning from your mistakes. I've learned so much just from the mistakes that I've made over the years of investing. And I think that's what makes people a better investor. And obviously read books, obviously, read as many books as possible, dozens of books, to help kind of boost your investment knowledge and everything that's going on in the markets. But now actually, what I do in the markets is I really just throw money into kind of general funds. So like the S&P 500 index is kind of something that I'll throw money into. I don't really put much into bonds, but the reason for that is because now I can spend more time kind of focusing on my own business ventures instead of spending time investing into individual stocks. So I would spend a lot of time, like days, just analyzing a company, right? And doing that really eats up a lot of time, especially when you're starting with a smaller amount of money. If you only have a few $1,000s that you're investing into it, it really just wasn't worth it for myself. So now I'm just putting those into those general funds that are, people like to think that they're a lot safer because they track the overall market, and it's hard for them to lose too much value.
Definitely. So a little bit of a safer bet, I guess.
hmm
What, in your experience, for a new entrepreneur, a new investor, what are the top three trading apps or investing apps that you've experienced?
Yeah, so I think one of the best ones, and they actually surpassed E-Trade in total amount of users that they have. They have millions of users now. It's called Robinhood. It's an app. And when I first heard of this was a few years ago when I heard of it, somebody told me about it. I said, there's no way this can be true. This has to be like a scam or something. But it actually offers free trading. So it's very interesting how much just the investing world and investment brokers have changed just in the past decade. But so you can buy and sell stocks for free, no transaction fees on the Robinhood app. They're definitely adding a lot of new features, and I suggest any of the listeners who are listening to this right now, if you're skeptical, just do some Google searches. You'll find that it's a very reputable company. They're based out of Silicon Valley. They have billions of dollars of investment money coming in, and they're doing very well as a company. A lot of people trust them. So Robinhood app, great way to start. But there's some other ones as well. You can use Vanguard for if you're doing long-term investing, like for retirement funds, for IRAs. I like Vanguard because they manage trillions of dollars, trillions worth of people's assets. So they're one of the largest financial institutions in the world, very reputable. And then, there's a lot of other ones as well. You could go with E-Trade or Fidelity or TD Ameritrade or M1 Finance. There's so many options out there today that it's kind of hard to pick from. But M1 Finance is another one as well that I like because it is free to use. And the CEO, Brian Barnes, based out of Chicago. So they're a pretty good business.
So who are some of the, I guess, mentors in your life that really have helped shape you into an entrepreneur, whether they're, personally or Dave Ramsey kind of mentors?
Yeah, so that's interesting that you ask that because I've never really considered myself to have any mentors, really. I mean, I never had any business oriented people besides my grandfather to really kind of show me the way. And a lot of people say that you need to have a mentor, you need to have somebody. But I don't know. I think in today, in 2019, there's so much information out there. I mean, I've been watching videos, like most of my information came from YouTube videos. And, I would watch Gary Vaynerchuk back in 2015 or Patrick Bet-David back in 2016 when they were kind of just starting to come up. And that's really kind of where I guess I could consider them like kind of like my online mentors in a way, just through their free content that they were providing. But yeah, other than that, really, I've never had any mentors, never any personal mentors. And the reason for that is because I'm very much of an introvert as well. So I don't really go out and socialize as much as I probably should. I force myself to do it now, but definitely like there's no way in hell that I would ever go out and just like talk to a business owner back when I was younger. I just couldn't. I just couldn't do it. I'm just too much of an introvert. So yeah.
What advice would you give to a starting entrepreneur, whether they're in high school or in college, but someone that's looking to start creating their own future?
Okay, so I think the biggest piece of advice that I would have is to consider something called shiny object syndrome, right? So this is a problem that I faced, that a lot of people face, and it's just this thing where essentially what happens is somebody will start a business. Maybe they're selling products on eBay, say, like they have some different products, or maybe they're drop shipping, right? And it's so exciting. They're really excited to get into it. They're so passionate about it. They're telling everybody about it. And maybe they start making some money off of it. They start seeing some sales. They start seeing some revenue, maybe some profit. But then eventually, a couple months go by, and it's not living up to their expectations. Maybe they're not making as much money as they would like to. And so then all of a sudden they see the next big business opportunity. They say, oh my God, I can be a real estate agent. I can make millions of dollars by selling homes. And so then they jump into that. They go a few months on that, maybe a year on that. And then after a while, they go into the next business. Maybe they think, you know what, I'm going to start the next big social media platform. So they jump into that for a few months, and they kind of jump around. And this is what I did for a long time. You kind of get a great business idea and then move on to the next and then move on to the next. And I think the way to combat this and the way to really succeed, in my opinion, is to find one business and to just master it and to get so good at that one business, because you can be profitable in anything that you do. You can be profitable, but it can take time, and you're not going to learn all the different techniques and skills that you might need to know in a couple of months. And so if you start a business, you're not making a lot of money on it now. If you focus on it even more, you can increase your profitability and you can find yourself succeeding a lot. So that's something that I did as well. Like just when for example, my YouTube channel, I kind of run it as a business. I mean, I run it through an LLC. So I consider it to be a business. And that's something that, you know, when I started it, I said, I have to just make sure that I actually follow through with this instead of letting it fizzle out. Because I know a lot of people who want to start a YouTube channel, they'll put out 5 or 6 videos, and then, you know, they don't see as many views as they would like to have. They only have 16 subscribers. And so they kind of just forget about it. It's easy to just forget about it and move on to the next thing. But what I did is I forced myself to, what I actually did is, this was my freshman year of college, and I bought $1,000 camera. It was a Canon 70D, but I didn't have $1,000 in my bank account at the time because I just paid for like all of my tuition. I was paying for everything, and it was very messy. But I maxed out my credit card, and then I had to buy some Amazon gift cards to buy this camera. So like I had to make sure that I was able to pay back this credit card. Kind of forced myself into succeeding on YouTube by buying this camera and saying, you know what, I better make at least $1,000 on this channel because I have to pay off this camera. So that was a way that worked for myself. Might not work for everyone, by forcing yourself to succeed in something,
Yeah.
but it did turn out to be successful for myself. So
Definitely. So what are your tips for growing a YouTube channel? I know there's probably a lot of people out there, a lot of young entrepreneurs who are looking into creating long form content like this.
mhm.
What are some tips, some tricks, some
Yeah.
insights that you've learned on the job building your channel?
Yeah, so there's really two different ways to go on YouTube. You can go the educational slash informational route, or you can go the entertainment route, right? So most of like the big YouTubers that you see, the ones who have like 10 or 20 million subscribers or more, are probably the entertainment type of YouTubers, like PewDiePie, or like there's a whole lot of them out there, like Mr. Beast or whoever else you might enjoy watching. And so those YouTubers are very much different from the informational ones. Now, I'm not very entertaining of a person, so my channels are almost always going to be informational, just because that's the type of person that I am. I'd rather just kind of talk and be serious rather than try to be funny or something and entertain people. But for starting a channel, yeah, really the biggest thing is just sticking with it. YouTube's kind of a magical place, really. Even the biggest YouTubers don't really understand everything about YouTube. And every time you have a theory about like, oh, maybe if I do this in my video, or if I do this in the title or the description and I word it a certain way, then maybe the videos will blow up. You test the theory and it gets debunked like every time. So yeah, so just sticking with it, putting out a lot of videos, a lot of content, networking with people, getting them to promote your channel a little bit can help as well. But just kind of putting out as much content as possible, and I think being genuine is important as well. If you're trying to start a channel and you're trying to like monetize it too much too fast in the beginning, I think it could hinder some growth, in my personal opinion.
Okay. So not trying to grow too fast. What are some things that you've learned in terms of providing certain content? Does certain content engage better than other types of content?
Yeah, so that's what's interesting. I found that people like easy answers, and this goes with anything, not just on YouTube, but just in life. People want the easiest possible answer. They don't want to know how to do it. They just want to know what to do. So, for example, they don't want to know how to invest in stocks. They just want to know the stocks to buy, right? Like that's just how people are wired in their brains. They kind of just want the easiest way possible, but you kind of have to make sure that you're doing it right. So I do my best to actually show them how to do these things, how to invest in stocks, how to start a business. And it doesn't get as many views as it probably would if I was just going out there and like feeding them exactly what they wanted, like the easiest information possible. And so, my content's more longer form content that I think ranks on YouTube. So if you're searching, I get a lot of search results for those. And it's long form content that should last for quite some time, for maybe the next year or two, should rank pretty well. So that's what I really focus on.
Have you ever considered getting into social media marketing and like e-commerce or creating, a really like a omnipresent personal brand?
Um, yeah, possibly. I think there's so many routes to go, and people can master Facebook ads, or they can be really good at search engine optimization, or different types of marketing, right? And so it's kind of hard to be a jack of all trades. And so, kind of what I'm focusing on, I think my one of my ideas is to grow my channel to maybe say like 500,000 subscribers, around that number, and then I think. Kind of have a little bit of I don't want to say expertise, but like knowledge in growing YouTube channels, and I think that would be kind of one of my abilities to kind of help people in that area. Probably the area that I think I would have the most amount of knowledge on. So that's kind of the route that I would like to go. Just kind of continue helping people with organic growth, especially on YouTube with video content. I think that would be my area versus if I tried to kind of like get into too many different areas at the same time. So,
Okay. So what's your advice for anyone trying to build a personal brand?
okay. So I think, okay. So in my opinion here, your name is really one of the most valuable assets that you have. And I've seen people ruin their name and their personal brand in a matter of hours. And I'm sure you've seen this as well. People can ruin their name so fast, and it's one of the things that you'll always have. But it's really an asset that you don't want to just throw around like a football, right? So I'm sure you've seen people. I don't want to necessarily trash talk anyone, but if you look back on something like BitConnect, right, and you look at the people who were promoting BitConnect and how they ventured into that and how they're viewed now is not nearly as nice as what they were viewed at the time. So if you're promoting something that might not be the most ethical, if you're promoting something that is a scam, a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme, whatever it might be, then you might make a lot of money in the short run. I'm sure you will. Most people make a lot of money at first in some of these pyramid schemes and different types of multi-level marketing schemes. But over time, like you kind of time will tell, and I don't think you want to destroy your name like that. So if you're creating a personal brand, just be very honest. Don't try to cheat. Don't try to make up numbers or find a way to get exposed, because you will get exposed. The truth always does come out. And it's just important to be honest about who you are, what it is that you do, and the type of person that you are. And I think that will pull its weight over the long run.
What are your three character traits of an entrepreneur? If you had to pick three traits of an entrepreneur, what would they be?
For me personally, or for
Just in
anyone?
general, for anyone, for an entrepreneur.
Okay, so one that I think people should have is they should be incredibly efficient with their time. So time is one of our most valuable assets, just like with our name. I guess we have a lot of valuable assets, but time is very important. And I'll see some people who are starting their business or trying to get into entrepreneurship who don't value their time very much, and they're not using it very very wisely, or they're not considering something called opportunity cost. Very basic concept, but very important to keep in mind with everything that you're doing. So for example, instead of going out and say doing your own laundry, just outsourcing it, get somebody else to do it for $8, and then you can save a lot of your time and spend that time to grow your business. So I think one of the traits is just efficiency, having that ability to kind of realize how important your time is and how you want to give that time out to certain people in certain different areas. Another trait would probably be honesty. I think honesty is very important, and that kind of goes back to the point that I just made earlier about your personal brand. But it really is important to play by the rules, to not try to chase money too much in the short run. And I've said that a couple of times, so I don't have to reiterate that again. But it really is true that, you know, if you can just be honest and follow something that you're very passionate about, and that leads me to the third one there, which I would say is you need to be passionate about what it is that you're doing. I've tried to start businesses in the past that I just don't really care about because I wanted the money, and I didn't really care about the product or the service that I was trying to provide. And that it's not something that's very sustainable. And I'm sure you found this as well with the different business ventures that you've gotten into, that if you can start something that you're really passionate about, that you enjoy doing, it's so much easier to actually get it done. Like for myself, I feel like I've never worked a day in my life because I don't do things that aren't making me happy. I'm not doing something that is kind of a nuisance to deal with. And if you're doing a business, like say you have a pest control business and you absolutely hate pests, and you just really, it's not something fun, you don't look forward to it, you might be making a lot of money off of it, but is that worth it? That's something up to the person to decide. But for myself, I don't think it's worth it for me to follow something or try to start a business in an area where maybe I could make more money, but I'm not passionate about and I'm not enjoying.
Kind of leading into this next question, what's your opinion on college? I know you had mentioned that you went to college at some point.
Yeah.
I'm currently in college, so I just wanted to get your opinion.
Yeah, so the college system, very interesting. We have about 1.5, $1.6 trillion student loan debt in America, right? So I think college can be a great place for people. I think the big issues that I have is that people are so pressured into going to college that, you know, not everybody should be going to college. But the way the society kind of makes it, they say like, if you're not going to college, you're not going to be successful. That's really the vibe that I got from high school. I'm sure you got as well. A lot of listeners here got that. You know, college people who go to college just will be more successful. And if you're not going to college, it's going to be a lot more difficult to succeed. Now, statistically, if you look at the numbers, it is true. Like college is still worth it. And I actually created a video on this back in the fall about whether or not college is worth it. And we ran the numbers and we found that it is still worth it. If you look at the average salaries from somebody who graduated college versus someone who didn't go to college, it is still worth it. You can pay that off. But I think the issue comes up where people are taking out $100,000 in student loans. They don't understand the impact of those loans. They don't understand that they're paying maybe 9% interest on some of these private loans and how much that's actually going to cost them. That's almost 10 grand a year in just interest rates that they're paying. And that's really another reason why I create these videos on my channel, to help people kind of understand those finances, to understand those loans, so that they can prepare for them. But I think it is an issue on the amount of people that go to school, to college, that maybe just shouldn't. For myself, I went because I was really pressured into it. I mean, everybody in my family, everybody in my school said, go to college or else you're going to be a waste. You're not going to add up to anything. And so I went, spent about 2 years there at Penn State. I don't have any regrets from it. I don't really regret anything in life. I think if you have regrets, it's just not a good way to go about life. And I'm happy with every decision that I've made. I'm happy with the decision to go to college, but I'm also very happy with the decision to take some time off from college. And, you know, you can always go back if you need to. I don't want to think that I will have to. But it is always an option. So yeah, college, it's a love-hate relationship. I had a lot of fun at college, a lot of friends there, and a lot of very cool professors, interesting professors. But at the same time, I was going for business, right? So I was going for marketing and finance, and I was trying to double major in those. And just sitting through some of those classes, it just became a little bit difficult, sitting through some of the marketing classes, for example, where your professor is a senior citizen and they're trying to read out of the textbook or read off of a PowerPoint slide on how to market on social media. And you just kind of have to wonder, like, does this professor even have social media? Like, do they have an Instagram account? Do they know have they actually run ads on this? Do they know how to do this? And they might kind of understand the textbook ideas of it, but I think it's important to have like some real world experience. So if I wanted to go out and learn how to create Facebook ads, I would probably not try to learn it from somebody who's never done it before. I would probably want to learn it from somebody who is an expert at it, who's making millions of dollars per year for their clients. with Facebook ads. So somebody like Kevin David, he's very good with Facebook ads. And so if I wanted to learn how to do that, I'd probably go to Kevin and say, Kevin, can you teach me how to do this? And instead of having a professor who's never used Facebook ads before. So
Definitely.
that's one of the issues that I have with it as well.
Okay. So kind of wrapping things up here, what advice would you give a younger you? Say you could go back 5 to 10 years. What advice would you give yourself?
I think I would say, so this is in my Instagram bio, actually. It says work smarter, not harder. And I kind of live by this because working harder won't always get you to your goals. And if you can kind of take a step back and really analyze things from afar and kind of try to work as smart as possible, as efficient as possible, I think that's the best way to kind of go about business or anything else in your life. So people commonly will refer to me as a bum. They'll say, I see Nate like just sitting around all day. What is he doing? Like he's just sitting there on that park bench over there for hours. Like he's not working. But really, I'm thinking deep about different business ventures. I'm thinking about the next move to make and the best way to go about that. So I'm always working. It doesn't really feel like I'm working, but I am always working. And so working smarter instead of working harder, I think, is a route to go. And I think everybody should consider it, because if you just put your head down and grind all the time and you never pick your head up to see where you are, it's hard to actually, go the right way and find the most amount of success. And somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk, really, really inspiring, great guy. But that's one of the things, like he says, put your head down and grind until you're 29 and don't pick your head up until you're 29. And I don't think he ever had fun in his 20s. I'm sure you've listened to a lot of his talks, and he's really all about the hustle and just grinding every single day. But I think there's more to life than that. And I think if you take a step back, analyze things from afar, and kind of make those smarter decisions at a slower pace of making those decisions, then that's probably my biggest piece of advice that I can have for people.
I'll get you one final question here. I know on your social media you post a lot of pictures of different countries, so I have to
Oh yeah.
ask, what's the best trip that you've gone on? What's the best country, best area that you've ever visited?
Yeah, so I think I'm averaging about a flight per week. So I've been going to a number of different countries really since January, when I dropped out of school. That's when I decided, I'm just going to do some traveling. And so the best country I've been to, the most interesting one, was probably Israel. A couple of reasons for that. One of them, I had no plans of going there. I was in Paris and I met some people and they were like, "Hey, we're going to Israel tomorrow. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Well, I guess so." So I ended up in Israel, no idea what to expect. And I'll be honest, it felt like a much safer country than I first anticipated. And that kind of goes with a lot of other countries I've been to. You see things on the news and you think, oh, is that a safe country? Like you think Israel, like I've heard maybe there's some terrorism or some rockets being fired into there. Like you see some stuff on the news, right? Um, or for example, Mexico. I've been to Mexico a couple of times in the past couple of months here, and I felt totally safe. Same for Panama. So, I think if you're looking at things on the news and just don't kind of judge things from the news, because the news are just trying to get money. They're trying to get clicks, and they'll just kind of like, yeah. So Israel, definitely the coolest country I've been to. Really interesting seeing all those things that you would read in, say, the Bible or whatever religion you might be a part of. A lot of those religions do stem from Jerusalem, from that area. And so it was very interesting walking around and seeing like, yeah, that's where, Jesus did that or this, or where all these different people in the Bible, did this and that. And it was just really interesting to see all the history behind it, and to actually be there. So yeah, I'd say that's definitely the coolest country I've been to. But it's very fun traveling. I'm very passionate about it. And on my channel, I talk about ways to save money and budgeting, but it's also important to enjoy your life, to do things that you're passionate about, and don't just squirrel all your money away and just live in a hut somewhere. Like it's important to spend money and do things that you enjoy.
So where can the listeners learn more about you, find more about you?
Mhm. Yeah, so probably the best bet's probably just going onto YouTube, type in Nate O'Brien. Probably just type in like Nate O, and I should come up. Or check me out on Instagram, I guess, if you want to see where I'm traveling. I don't really post anything about my travels on my YouTube, but my Instagram is just Nate O'Brien, but with an extra N at the end of it because somebody else had the original Nate O'Brien. So yeah, that's probably the best place to find me.
All right, awesome. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. That was a lot of value, and
Yeah, thanks
I'm
for having me on. I
excited.
really appreciate it.